And welcome back to KTN Morning Express. I'm Michael Karanja. Now it's finally here. Cashless payments, or Cashlight as they like to call it, is finally upon us. The deadline was December 1st for all matatus to have gone the Cashlight route. And today on Business Chat, we have a blockbuster panel for you. We are now joined by Dennis Njah, who's the head of channels from KCB, who's piloting a certain system called Prepare, which is supposed to be used by matatu operators. On to his left is Mr. Francis Major, who's the director of NTSA, the National Transport Safety Authority. And the last panelist is Moses Mushangi, who's the director at Rasasi Investment Group. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, just to start off with, and I think Francis, I'd love to start with you as the overseer of this whole initiative. Cashless, Cashlight payments is something that the matatu system has been looking forward to for a very long time. Why is it necessary?
Well, I think it is necessary because we are trying to transit this sector to the next level.
Yeah.
You remember there are so many initiatives that are coming. If you look at the bus rapid transit system that is coming, we want people to start getting used to payment through other means other than cash. We also want a card that can transit all other operators, like for bus travel, train, light train, and issues like that. There are issues also to be addressed in terms of accountability. We want to make this sector more attractive to more investments and better returns to those already who have invested in it. There have been complaints of a lot of revenue leakage to this sector because of issues of dealing with cash. We are also trying to address the issues of busybodies who have been crowding around matatu terminals without any work actually, and no one has assigned them duties to be around there. So those are some of the challenges that we are trying to address.
Yeah. And Dennis, was just to ask you, it's estimated that there's about 218 billion shillings. How much as KCB are you targeting to share in this whole revenue generation from the matatu business?
Michael, as much of that as we can get is definitely what we're going for. And I think that's exactly why we launched Prepare yesterday. Yeah. And I think what we're offering to the commuters is a very robust proposition. Yeah. Number one is the fact that then Prepare, which is what we launched yesterday, is a MasterCard branded card. That tells you that then it is very interoperable. And in fact, what it means is that then I don't have to have this specific card for one matatu. I can actually take this card and go to any of the matatus. Yeah. But besides going to any of the matatus is that the fact that then I can also go to the restaurant with this particular card. I can go to the supermarket and shop with it. It's actually a prepaid card where you actually load value. Debit. It's a prepaid, yes. So you load value in here. And basically, why a prepaid card is good is because then you're able to say, as Michael, this is how much I want to carry on my card at any point in time. Yeah. And you limit and manage your own risk as you'd want to do that. And therefore then you can actually forget about carrying your usual debit card and actually carry your prepaid card and say that then the only risk I carry is what I am comfortable putting into this card, as opposed to your debit card that has the whole wealth of your account into it. And so this is not actually just limited only for transit. You can actually use it, and it's part of the value proposition that we want to bring in the transit industry and say to the commuter, you don't have to carry too many cards. Yeah. Just pick this Prepare card. With your Prepare card, then it opens up your whole world. Utilities are transit. It can go to supermarkets. It can go to online shopping. You can actually fly all the way to London and get into an Oyster train and be able to use this. And therefore, then it actually then opens your full world. And actually, we'll be giving you more details about this.
Now, Moses, you're in the industry of matatus and in the investment into the whole side. As an industry, where were some of the leakages coming from, and how do you see this system helping you address some of the challenges that you're facing?
One of the advantages of the system is that the leakage of cash. We were losing a lot of cash through Mungeke, through the boys who normally our turn boys, and of course through robberies. Now robberies will decline because when you hijack a bus, I mean you won't get any cash. Yeah. So those are most of the advantages. And then in terms of fare hiking, it will also assist us because when the fare is hiked for matatu, we normally not get the money. The owner of the matatu doesn't receive the money. But when the card is there, nobody will hike the fare. The fare will be at the level where we want, and we won't lose a lot of money, and customers will have the satisfaction
Yeah. Just talking about fares, the biggest challenge for commuters has been that fares, it rains a little bit, fares is 200. Who's setting the price? Are we going to come up? Because I've entered a number of buses where they have a rate card saying off peak hours, it's this amount, this amount. Is that going to be cast in stone in the system, or are we going to find the same scenario where rains a little bit in Nairobi or any part of this country and fares all of a sudden shoot from 7 shillings to 200 bob?
I believe the fare will be, we are the one who determines the fare as the owner of the matatus. But sometimes when it rains, when there is a lot of jam, the drivers and the makangas decide to raise up the fare, and that is their money. They pocket the money because it doesn't come back to us. Because us, as in the industry, when there is jam, we are very happy because there is the flow of customers is stable. When there is no jam, there are no customers. So when a matatu is on route, and then there is jam, when it goes to the stage is always packed. So it doesn't waste a lot of time calling for customers. So to us, it's an advantage.
Yeah. Francis, just hearing from what you say, is NTSA perhaps considering regulating fares just to make it simpler for commuters just to understand? And then secondly is an issue that you brought up, this whole issue of busybodies and the ecosystem around matatus, because we know the essence why it's been corrupt is because people have had money. So you'll have corrupt policemen in there, you'll have those people who load buses in there, you'll have the mungiki, like he says, who are extorting fares. Then how then do you clamp down on that? Or is this system now meant to ensure that there's no money, so there's no risk of anyone losing out?
Maybe to begin with the issue of fares.
Yeah.
You see, whenever there is rain or there is some inconvenience, the crew decide to vary the fares without even the knowledge of the operator himself. This will not be possible because if it is a route like, let's say, Nairobi, Rongai, the amount will be predetermined. And that can only be varied by the company or the SACCO that is operating that route.
Yeah.
So if the management will have full knowledge when that is happening. Unlike currently where they don't know. The issue that we are trying to address is that when there is so much idle cash, in fact, sometimes I sympathize with the investors in this industry.
Yeah.
They have absolutely no control of their investment. Because you have a guy here who has a till, he decides how amount to give to the policeman without reference to the investor. And at the end of the day, he will just tell you, this is how much I have. This is how much I was able to raise. As to whether he can fully account for it, it's not possible to determine because you don't know how many passengers boarded that matatu.
Yeah.
So I think we are placing the owners of these investments right in the steering wheel to be fully in charge of their business.
Yeah.
And we know that once there is that free money that is idling there, we suffocate these networks because once they have no money, free money that is very easily available to them, what will be the motivation of them to continue being there? Naturally, I believe they will disappear.
Because I think at some point there were the people who was trying to stifle the rollout, because it was first July 1st, then it was December 1st. Now here we are heading into 2015, but I guess that's just to ensure that there is uptake of the system by matatus. Yeah. Now, Dennis, if I was to ask, settlement is one key question. Yes, people are paying via the Cashlight system, people are tapping, people are swiping, people are able not carrying cash into matatus. But when does Moses get his money?
I think just before I answer that question, and I think you've asked a very pertinent question, the question of raising fares. If you look at in the non-cashless position, the guy who benefits from it is actually the conductor and the crew. Yeah. And the investor like Moses here would not have the benefit of doing that. Now today that incentive gets killed because in this terminal, once we give this terminal, it is mapped to an account that belongs to Moses. And therefore, even if you hike the fare, there is no benefit to you per se, because then that money goes straight into his own account, and therefore then that begins to manage that whole conversation, and then begins to bar the need for you to do that, because then you have no incentive per se, and therefore then that cushions the investor, and that also cushions me as a commuter, so that then I don't have to do that. Now, you asked the question of settlement.
Yeah, when does Moses get his money?
One of the things that I know Moses needs is he needs to get money to fuel his car at any point in time, and therefore then our settlements are actually real time.
Yeah.
And therefore then from the comfort of his office, he can actually, we give him a portal that he can actually be able to look at, and at any point in time as money comes through, then he's able to actually see, this is how much I have done. Yesterday, I think the direction was given that then a maximum of 24 hours from the time that then that transaction happens, and I'm happy to say KCB has actually been able to do way better than that, because then as you go, we then get to settle him. He will have to give me the option of telling him, no, don't settle me at every point in time, settle me at the end of the day or half a day or whatever it is. But then we do have the capacity today to be able to settle as you go, so that then we don't end up holding his cash. Because then one of the biggest concerns for the investor is, how am I going to get my money to fuel? I mean, you're holding all my money and I need to do my own usual running businesses. And therefore then we are able to settle him on the go, so that then he's able to do whatever it is that he requires to do, and the money is actually available to the investor.
Key question, Dennis. Does your system talk to My 1963? Does it talk to Equity? Does it talk to Family Bank? Does it talk to, who else was, I think it was Tangaza?
Yes.
Does the system talk to all the other cards? Or will I end up having to have a Pepea card, My 1963 card, Tangaza card, Equity card?
Very good question. Now, one of the biggest things that Bwana DG here pushed us heavily on was a question of interoperability.
Yeah.
And it was down to the fact that then I don't need to have a card for every matatu, and I don't need to have all the plastics out there available. I need just to have one particular card with which I can utilize out there. Now, the thing that I want to answer your question in two ways. Number one is the fact that then the terminal we give you, KCB is a Visa MasterCard certified brand as an acquirer. And therefore then every terminal we give out there can accept any Visa card. Not just the few that you have mentioned, but any Visa card. Can a commuter come from the Ukraine and come into Kenya and climb into a matatu and be able to use their card? Yes, they can be able to do that, because then we are completely interoperable. Any Visa branded card, any MasterCard branded card, any Union Pay branded card, JCB, and I think we'll be adding a few more, can be able to run on this particular terminal. And so bring whichever that card is, and we'll be able to process it for you without any difficulty. It is also for the same reason that then we also decided to go with a MasterCard branded card, that also opens up, in the same way we're opening up your world from an acceptance standpoint, and from you being able to run your card on the terminal that we are bringing in. It's also the same route that we took when it comes to card issuance. So that then we don't give you a card that then you will need to get too many other cards. I think one of the challenges today is that people have too many cards in their wallets today, and I'm sure they are looking for, is there that one card that I can actually use and begin to reduce the rest of the cards that we have? And that's why we've given you this. With this card, you can use it locally, you can use it abroad, you can use it on any particular matatu. And the good thing is the fact that then, and I'm happy to say this even while the DJ is listening, is the fact that then we are not selling this card.
It's free of charge.
This card is absolutely free of charge. All we need you to do is that once you get it, please load something. So if I gave you this card today and you load 100 shillings.
Can the cards become inactive if there's no money? Do the cards then become...
They have a long period before they can go. They can go.
Let me just cut you.
Yeah.
Moses, now that the money is coming directly to you, how then does it change the business aspect of how the industry operates? Is it going to make your drivers and your crew more honest? And then secondly, in terms of fitting, are all your matatus, I'm just picking you out of our sample set of so many circles that exist here, but in terms of matatus, how do you say has been the uptake? I know you've made a huge step in terms of trying to get a portal that actually settles all these Cashless systems, but just in terms of improving business and how well you've adopted this system.
Yeah, one, we have challenges because the crews don't want to use it. One, it will cut whatever they normally get. But to us, it's an advantage. One, I have to employ someone to collect money every day, to go to line up in the bank. That will be gone. That will be a gone case, because the money will just go direct to the account. So that's one of the advantages. But with our DG, I guess things will work out.
Yeah. And then in terms of just improving the system, I mean, now you don't have to keep so many people, but now that you're able to have efficient revenue management, it talks also to how you manage the crew, because I guess an incentive for the crew to use the system would be, this is the amount of money coming in, so now we don't have to do even wages or daily kind of remittance to you. Then can we then put the crew into kind of a salaried system where now they're able to know I can expect this much at the end of the month, instead of having to look for nooks and crannies and avoid using the system just to ensure that they get their loaf of bread at the end of the day?
In fact, it will also assist us in terms of sustaining drivers. We have a lot of challenges, because a driver will come, work for you 3 days, is gone. Now, because he will be on salaried end month, I guess it will be good, because he'll work for you until the end of the month and get his salary. Yeah. Unlike the other day when he's the one who pays himself. So you
can dictate the days he comes to work.
Yeah.
So and maybe to add on that, what we are doing to facilitate them, because that is obviously a challenge.
Yeah.
If you look at the PSV regulations that we published, one of the conditions is that the employees, who include the driver and the conductor, must be on contract. So when you're on contract, it means that you are not being paid on a daily basis. But we want even to go further. From 1st of January, the PSV badges that the PSV drivers will be using will be applied by the company or the SACCO. And it will be in the name of the company of the SACCO. That will limit the movement of drivers hopping from one operator to another. Because if you have to move to another person, you must then release the card to the SACCO that you are leaving, and we must get a letter to explain the reason why you are leaving. So that will curtail and make sure that drivers are not hopping from one operator to another. That will make things structured, and even further, to also look at their welfare. We have said that statutory deductions such as NHIF, NSSF will be mandatory. That secures their future.
Yeah.
And I believe this, therefore, is a win-win to everyone.
That was just a way of professionalizing the sector,
Yes.
in essence.
Precisely.
Then, Francis, if I was to ask you, people, number of times you'll go, and it's not unique for someone to leave their card at home. So if this system goes fully Cashlight, and say for whatever reason I left my card in one of my jackets, and I'm on this matatu, now how then do I pay? Are they still going to accept cash? Because I guess now that's the other biggest challenge, because I mean, you cannot refuse someone a service simply because they do not have the card. So what happens in that case when someone doesn't have a card? Will SACCOs or matatu operators be inclined to have the cards in the matatu, so that now they start vending them out to whoever doesn't have it, so that you get the card, load it, or how will it work?
It is very simple. What happens, Michael, when you leave your wallet at home with your money? How do you pay for the fare?
Start calling for M-Pesa.
So it is simple. This card is just as good as money.
Yeah. So
if you leave it, maybe if I'm traveling with him and I convince him that I genuinely forgot my card, he might decide to pay for me the same way. So those things are different. And then there is also another question that people are confused about. Yeah. What happened in the event that, let's say, a vehicle breaks down on the way, therefore you are compelled to return these fares? It is simple. The arrangements that have been put in place where a supervisor can be nominated by the company to reverse some of those entries.
You can place it to a certain matatu. These are the transactions give people.
Yes, you give an overriding right to somebody at the level of supervisor who can refund these fares.
Yeah. Moses, you're saying something?
Then to compare on the same, we also be having a card which will be loaded with cash. For customer who doesn't have have a card, we will use our own card in the vehicle to run it, and he pays cash, but the card runs the amount in the bank.
And I'm hoping that's someone you trust very much.
Yeah?
I hope that's someone you trust very much, not the same people who are trying to slice your revenue.
No, I mean a card.
No, I'm saying the person you're living with a card. I hope it's someone you trust very much, not the driver or the makanga who was subject to taking your money previously.
No, it actually can be the same guy, because you see, it's an electronic reversal.
Yeah.
All right. So he's going to run his card on that terminal, and therefore then I run my card, me as a commuter, and therefore funds then move from that card into my card. And therefore there's actually no cash that we're dealing with. And in fact, with that concern of the fact that then the matatu could break down, or the matatu could be arrested, and therefore then how do I then terminate my journey in the middle, and I need my cash back, and I need to hop into the next matatu? We have actually made that functionality possible within the terminals that we're giving, that you can actually do a reversal of a transaction you had done and push the money back to you, and then you can hop onto the next matatu and proceed with your journey.
I guess in this whole Cashlight industry, I mean, mobile payments cards, RTGSs or whatever, but in that whole ecosystem, now one of the biggest challenges perhaps, and it was in a story that was done yesterday by Ian Wafula, was that a matatu driver was saying, okay, look, I've been clamped. What happens then? Because I don't have cash to bail myself out. Secondly, I've gone, my matatu has broken down. I don't have cash. How then do I move from point A to B? How then are you looking at the ecosystem of matatus to ensure that, look, the guy who's coming for a breakdown also has POS somewhere where I can come, tap or swipe it, and I'm able to make payments, or I can still use mobile payments? How are you looking at that ecosystem around matatus?
I think what I want to say is this: the journey for Cashless has for surely begun.
Yeah.
And like Moses says, the guy he has on that crew has a card. This card is funded, all right? And therefore then should he be clamped, If you look at Nairobi County government, for example, they've been talking about moving cashless as well in a very significant way. And we can only see that going even much higher. We've seen that replicated across the various counties out there. And I think one of the most recurring tenders right now is about who shall support which county to go cashless. And therefore, I think the conversation of cashless is beginning to catch momentum. If you look at even small traders today, they're starting to go cashless. You are going to find one form of electronic payment or the other. Okay. Now, what is basically then happening here is to say, how do we then account for all these fund transfers? They have always happened, but then what visibility does he have as an investor? And I think to Major's earlier point, what is going to happen with this whole proposition is the fact that then we're beginning to give back some control to the investor. Because this is the one industry that I know, Michael, where you invest in a whole 3 million shillings, buy a truck and lose control on the same day.
Takes you 15 years to recoup.
Absolutely. and on the same day you bought that vehicle, you handed over control. You are then left at the mercy of other people to sort you out. And we're saying, is it possible that then we can give back that power and that control to the investor? Because then if he got then the power to do this, then the next thing that will naturally happen is that then he begins to recoup a bit more. And I'm sure bosses will probably talk about, has this brought any savings or any increased revenue into his proposition? And if that then gets to happen, then the next natural thing that you will see is that then he has a more ability to become even a greater investor. If he becomes a greater investor, then the next natural thing that will happen is that he will need more drivers and he will need more conductors.
And what happens is larger fleet.
And he needs a larger fleet. For me as a bank, I'm happy to support his fleet. And in fact, one of the benefits that comes with this is the fact that then he's now running with me, for example. And therefore then I'm able to see what his flows are. Therefore, as a customer, I'm able to understand him much greater. And because I'm able to understand him much greater, I can see his flows, I can see his revenues. Then we can begin to negotiate that then for his next fleet, what preferred interest rates can I probably advance to him, because then I have a better understanding of him. And I begin to score him on the basis of the fact that then we have a relationship.
His ability.
I already know him, and therefore then we can even do much better for him.
Francis, reforms in the Matatu sector is something we've been looking forward to. Cashlight is definitely here. What's the next phase in terms of just bringing sanity into this industry?
There are a number of reforms that are obviously on the way.
Yeah.
The next thing possibly we expect, once we are successful with this one, we want to strengthen these companies and SACCO. And we shall be doing thorough auditing so that we have fewer SACCOs and companies which are better organized. Because it will be unfortunate for this country when we go to the bus rapid transit system that we will have investors coming to invest in this sector. We want to prepare them so that they have the muscle, so that when they bid for these routes, they can be able to operate some of these infrastructures that are coming on board. Even issues like rail, why will they not do that? If they are organized, they have the capability, they will be able to do that. So that wealth remains in this country instead of having investors to come and invest. So for us is to make sure that this industry is modernized, is more transparent the way it operates, is more disciplined, and I believe it will be beneficial to the whole industry and the country at large.
Moses, Daddy said power is now back in your control. Sanity, obviously discipline is coming to the sector. What's the future for you and the whole Matatu industry as a whole?
One, our creditworthiness will go high because the account will be transacting good volumes. Because every cash that comes in, even the one we used to pay fuel, will be through the bank. So you'll be able to determine how much can I give this guy a loan, or then service industry is a fast return business, but with a lot of pressure. So you have to handle the pressure as you move, because you need the cash to, because there is no, you invest 5 million in this world and make 200,000 a month. But in Matatu it's very possible.
It's a possibility.
Yeah,
That is, if I could just ask for that system, just 1 second, and the card. The card, I'm not going to make myself look like I know what I'm doing up here, but this is the system. This is something that you're going to be seeing in Matatus going forward. So you will need one of these, perhaps, just to when you're getting a card, not necessarily a pair. I'm not marketing for KCB, but a variety. There are 6 cards that are out there in the market. Am I right, Francis? There are 6 cards?
There are 6
The 6 card system all talks to one another. So this is the future of Matatu payments. So all you do in this case, you can tap or swipe and you'll get a receipt. with the fare that has been allocated for that particular route. We take a short commercial break, but gentlemen, we cannot go without thanking you. Dennis Njau, Head of Channels at KCB, thank you very much. Francis Major, Director General for NTSA, thank you very much for making time. Moses Mushangi from Rasasi Investments, thank you very much for coming.